Okay, great. Okay, so is everyone hearing me? You can unmute or just type in the chat.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Graham gone, Jerry.
Okay, good night, everyone. Welcome to our first demo day. Hope you guys aren't too exhausted. I know we've been having a lot of events recently. A lot of persons have exams, workplace pressure. So we hope we're not putting you under too much stress, but we're glad to have you all here. So once again, welcome to another Jamaican Developers event. As you all know, Jamaican Developers community is a community of tech enthusiasts who are working to upskill and leverage tech talent in Jamaica to contribute to nation building and provide awareness of opportunities for developers, whether it is in the local space or in the international space. And so we're glad to have you here this evening. We're going to post the links as usual to join the community in the chat. But those will be done as we go forward. So today our focus is going to be on our presenters, not so much us. And we're not going to be having much discussion, but if you guys have questions, as usual, you can post them in the chat or you can unmute and disrupt. So let's start. Let me just move on. Just a reminder, so our event organizer and our founder is Shane Bailey. He is a full stack engineer and has several years of experience working with different frameworks, different international companies. He was also a part of Google Summer of Code as both a student and mentor, and he is the CEO of Oswald Limited, which is the company that makes this event possible. Then we have myself, or Assistant Event Organization and Communications Officer for Jamaican Developers Community. You can reach out to me at any time. I'll put my email address in the chat later, but I basically help to plan and organize these events and any other community initiatives. So of course you can reach out to me on my social media or via email. Okay, before we jump into our presentations, I just want to remind everyone that even though JAD is the one-spot hub for tech news in Jamaica, and even as we branch into the Caribbean space, there are other communities that you can tap into or join and become involved in. So if you're a Python enthusiast, you could consider joining Python Jamaica, or the Google Developer Group, the Flutter community, Docker community, and so forth. And we usually put the links to those in the chat. So those, of course, will be dropped in the chat as well. Okay, so today we are focusing on projects that persons from our communities have built. Of course, most of our events thus far have been related to giving you information and just ensuring that you have the information or skills or tools that you need to get into different fields or to understand what is out there. How can I be a better developer or digital professional? How can I make myself more marketable? But the demo day series is going to focus now on you, the developers or digital professionals. So this session is a session for us to celebrate the work that you have done and also to give you opportunities to either involve other developers in your team or attract investors. Now, we don't have any investors today, but our hope is that as this event builds momentum, that will become one of the great values that's added to it. And so we're glad to have you all here. We're gonna start with Oswald. And Oswald is a full stack developer and Flutter enthusiast. He is passionate about tech and the role of tech in nation building. He's served on, he's contributed to a lot of different projects. He also works at Caribbean Maritime Institute, and he is also the person who implemented Google Transit in Jamaica for the JUTC, enabling greater convenience for public commuters so that you can see where buses are, what the routes are, their numbers, their departure and arrival locations and so forth. And that made Jamaica the first country in the Caribbean to do so. So basically putting us on the map. So I'm gonna turn over to Oswald now. Just gonna ask you to say a little bit about how you got started in tech before you go into your presentation. And then we will continue with Colin afterwards.
All right, thank you, Latifah. Just checking again that you can hear me correctly.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. It's still a bit low, but I'm hearing. Is anyone having issues hearing? Okay, so I'm going to take that as a no, and we can continue.
All right, so I've been programming since I was in grade 9, growing up in rural Jamaica. I remember getting my first laptop. It was a Dell Inspiron 3500. It had a Pentium 2 processor with 32 megabytes of RAM, and it was the fastest thing around. You kids don't know anything about that, but yeah, back in the day, that was the state of the art. It even had a serial port, USB 1.1. When I got a laptop, nobody could talk to me. I was the talk of the town. Now, growing up, I remember watching movies about hacking, and you'd watch these movies and people say, oh, we're going to hack into the FBI and the CIA. And I remember Googling, well, this was before Google actually, because this would have been 1999. I said, how do I become a hacker? And there was this article or website at the time by a gentleman named Magnus Lee Hetland. And he had a series called, Instant Hacking Learn to Program with Python. And at that time, Python was, I think, version 1.5.2. This was before Python 2 and the whole new style classes and all of that. And so I followed that series, and so that's how I got into programming. Um, yeah, pretty much. That's where I started in programming. I've been in tech ever since. My first professional jobs were as a system administrator, but then later on and currently, it's mostly software development. That's it for my background. Latifa, should I go directly into the presentation on the Light Bill Tracker app now?
You can go ahead, Oswald.
Okay, will do. All right, so let me just share my screen here. Where is it? Okay, share. All right, everyone is seeing PowerPoint.
Yes.
All right. So tonight I'm going to talk to you guys about an app that I developed last year called Light Bill Tracker. The whole point of Light Bill Tracker was for you as an individual GPS customer to pretty much do what it says on the tin to track your light bills, and by track you we mean estimate it like during the billing period before the bill comes, so you can have some idea of what your bill is going to be, and before you get that sticker shock at the end of the month. Now, this app really started on Twitter. Like many things, it really goes down in the DMs. So sometime last year, early last year in April, I followed this guy on Twitter, Randy. He does a lot of investment advice. He's part of what you call, finance with the JA. And at the point, there was a lot of conversation on Jamaica Twitter about the light bills. Now, think about it. Everyone is working from home. It's approaching summer. It's getting a bit hot. People are running their fans, drinking a lot of water. They're opening fridge. So pretty much your light bills are going to go higher. But remember, we are in Jamaica, and I suspect in many other countries as well, we are very suspicious of our utility providers. So of course you hear the arguments, oh, JPS thief and them are rob boy, and we need options and competition and all that. So Randy said, hey, someone do a figure on how to read your electricity meter. And if JPS is paying the bills, you should be able to read it, and then you can know for a fact whether what exactly is happening. So this other guy came in and said, hey, here's an app idea for the mobile girls out here. Someone build an app to do this. So of course, because I follow Randy, I saw this whole thread, and I was thinking to myself, this is something that's really doable. So I chimed in that, hey, such an app would have no way to know what your actual usage is. So Randy responded and I said, hey, it's pretty much just an estimate, and it doesn't have to be all that accurate. there's a lesson right here to just to begin with. Many things that we as technical people think that many things that we technical people think are problems because it's not as automated as we would like. For most people, they aren't really problems per se. In many cases, something that gets you even half the way there, for many people, it's like you've given them the world. So I was here thinking of all the ways why it wouldn't work, and Randy was pointing out to me that, hey, no, so just getting the meter from last week, put in the and from that you can generate the estimate. And so we said, all right, we agreed that we would link up in the DMs. So the next day, Randy actually DM me, hey, you serious about this app? And I'm saying, all right, sure, we'll do it. And he said, there's something simple, user entry and estimation. So I promised that I would start working on it on the weekend. So note the date, April 21, 2020. So let's talk a bit about what goes into your light bill. So pretty much it's the number one factor is how many kilowatt hours you use for that billing period. Then on top of that, then there are certain thresholds where I think if you use less than 150 kilowatt hours, it's charged at a certain rate, and then any kilowatt hours above that is charged at a higher rate. Then there's things like there's the independent power providers. There's something you pay for that, and also there's also an adjustment made based on the sliding or the gaining of the US dollar exchange rate. So there are quite a few factors there, but it is a predictable thing. And once you know all those things, you can accurately estimate the light bill by pretty much so during the month, if so for your current bill, you can look at what the actual meter reading was. So if you know the meter reading was 1,000 kilowatts on say on May 1, and today's what, May 15 or May, I think about 15, May 25 or so, and you can go outside and look on your smart meter and you see that the meter reading says 1500, then you know that since the last reading on the bill you have used 500 kilowatt hours. You can plug that into the formula, and then you can get your bill. So immediately I knew that this was an app I was going to be building using Flutter, because although I do mobile development, I've actually never done native development. It's always been Flutter. And for those who aren't familiar with Flutter, it's a cross-platform application to mobile application development SDK from Google. So from a single code base, you can pretty much build apps for Android, for iOS, and now it's expanded from mobile as well. You can actually build Windows desktop apps, Mac desktop apps, and Linux apps as well. Also, just today, Google actually launched Fuchsia, and Fuchsia is sort of a new operating system that some think is going to eventually replace Android. Android has a lot of problems because of the fact that it uses the Linux kernel and the whole the driver and AB and the application binary interface situation with the Linux kernel, as well as some of the IP concerns about it. So Flutter apps are first class citizens on Fuchsia. Let me just admit someone to the chat. Now, within Flutter now, I was thinking about the architecture, and of course, I'm a big fan of the block architecture. I don't get particularly religious about architecture. I think whatever works, but I like it. The block architecture means business logic component, and so it's pretty much an example of reactive programming. And so the basis of reactive programming, for those of you, I figure many of you use JavaScript as well. Events come in and states come out, and there's something there that reacts to those events and produces output. And so this is it from an architecture level. Of course, most of you who have programmed for more than a week know that you'll always want to decouple your UI from your data. You don't want to have them tightly coupled. So the block sits between them. And so, for example, in your UI, you'll have events being dispatched into the block, and these events can be things like a button press. So you can say, well, button press that says, initiate transfer for a banking app, and so that comes into the block. Then the block does something with your data store and sends back the request to the block, and then the block sends the state to the UI. So the UI doesn't have a direct reference to your data store. So sometime after, remember I finished speaking with Randy. I think it was at April 20 or 21, and I sent him this video, and this was in May, and so this is what the rough draft looked like at the time. And so that was a video taken, just a video off my screen. I'm running in the iPhone simulator. So At this point, pretty much Adam, I already worked out the actual basic fundamental logic of the app in terms of the actual logic that's going to estimate that given your given the usage and a couple other parameters, many of which you can see there on the screen. For example, the estimated US dollar rate and the fuel and IPP charge, what the actual estimated bill would be. Give me a sec here. Good. So now, so that's what the rough draft is until, and then so it took some time to do some polishing until finally we got to what the end product of the app looked like, or at least the version ready for launch. And let me show you what this looks like. So for the first time, you have to enter the so you enter the reading of your last bill. You put in that, and that's in a certain amount of kilowatt hours. So you add that last bill, and so that would be an event, last bill added. You enter your current meter reading, so you'd have to go outside and look at your smart meter. You estimate it, and you get an estimate. You get an estimate of what your bill is, right? So that's really what it looked like from start to finish. Where's my cursor? Good. And of course, since it started on Twitter, we had to finish it on Twitter as well. So in July, that was July 1. So I posted it to Twitter, and to fame and acclaim and everything, I had to turn off my phone that night because notifications got too crazy, and I did actually make some improvements. So the actual app wasn't particularly complicated. I think it was about just over 1,000 lines of code from start to finish. But I think what I want to spend the rest of the time talking about is what goes into a successful project after the code is finished. As I said, most of the code was finished from talking about that was in probably about the middle of May or so. But I didn't actually launch it until July 1 because there's a lot that goes into it. So for example, that video that you just saw, I had to create that video. I had never edited video before, so I had to figure out I had to pretty much learn it from scratch, load up iMovie, capture the script, capture the video, put it in the frame, zoom in at different points, and so on. For example, you need a logo for the app. I had to design that logo. In fact, let me walk you through a few things that I had to do. Some feedback we got was that, hey, I want to use the app, I love it, but I don't know how to read my smart meter. How do I do that? Well, so I had to go in and create a video on how to read your smart meter. And if you'll notice from the screens here, so these are pretty much the different frames of the animation that I had to make. And this is just 3 of maybe about 20 in the video for just how you read your smart meter. So I had to pretty much draw vector representations of the smart meter, put in the numbers, put in the highlights, put them on a timeline, and the whole thing. There's a saying in software development that the first 90% takes 90% of the time, and the other 10% takes the other 90% of the time. Because really, once you've done coding, you're nowhere near finished. There's a lot of tedium, drudgery, and grind that you really have to do to get something really finished. So pretty much, I designed the logo, the graphics, learned to edit video, and all of that. And so all of that is what went into it. Now, what's the status of the app? Well, it was never actually fully published to the App Store. It was in test flight and Google Play preview for a while because again, I just pretty much, so this was pretty much as a side project for me, and I had other work commitments, so it really wasn't ever finished. And on top of that, JPS updated their official app, and with their app now, they have from their app they have pretty much maybe not fully real-time access to the to your smart meter reading. I think the app data lags by about 2 days, but you can get pretty good estimations from their app, and it's really good. But I really enjoyed working on the project. Made some pretty good contacts from it, and it was a good learning experience. And so I'm going to hand over to you guys now if you have any questions.
Thank you, Oswald. They say necessity is the mother of all inventions, and certainly was the mother of this invention. I have a question. Since it wasn't fully published, I think there's some more improvements to be done or rebuilding. Are you open to other developers from the community reaching out to help with that?
I haven't really thought about it. I haven't thought about it. It's just looking back. There's so many architectural improvements I'd want to make because listen, of course, when you're writing it the first time, the architecture isn't perfect. Maybe I'm afraid of showing my dirty laundry. I don't know. And then hey, listen, this is a real thing. Everybody has that impulse. Am I going to open source the code? Oh my God, they're going to see how terrible it is. I didn't refactor that method. I duplicated it 14 times. I just changed one character there, that type of thing happens. And then just I don't know, it's really up in the air. I haven't really decided.
Well, it's definitely a way for the project to grow and for the quality to grow. Even if you're afraid of, of airing the dirty laundry, it's still, the result can be better. So I definitely say to consider it. Does anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So as for estimating, have you ever considered like machine learning?
No, because you wouldn't need machine learning. It's a predictable. It's pretty much it's a predictable thing here. Given the amount of kilowatt hours used, then knowing the US exchange rate and the fuel and IPP, you know what the bill is going to be. There's no ifs, buts, and maybes about it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so good night, everybody. Just
Good night.
wondering,
Hi, Kadim.
what are the languages you use? I think did you mention JavaScript? Or is it some more reactive programming? And of course, you use Dart
Yeah, man. So
behind
this is
Flutter.
yes, this is Flutter. So this is pretty much all Dart, all Dart. I mentioned JavaScript in that I know that I'm not a JavaScript programmer myself, but I know that the reactive programming is used a lot in JavaScript.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions? Last call.
What was your deployment process like when you're using Dart compared to like normal Android?
Oh well, listen. So I've never done native Android or iOS development for that matter. Strictly Flutter. So all my experiences is within Flutter, but the deployment was pretty easy. So I will say this. I think the developer experience for iOS apps was much easier for me than for the Android side. So, for example, when you're talking about to upload an app to each of the stores, even just for testing, they have to be signed by your keys or whatever. Um, on iOS, Xcode handles all of that for you pretty much automatically and seamlessly. On Android, you have to do this whole thing, RSA key gen and the whole thing, and you get your entropy, and you have to open a Google file, and then put in references to where those files are and the passphrases and the whole thing. So that was just assigning the app. Then now, in terms of getting the app to make it available for testing without using TestFlight on iOS or like the beta the internal and beta testing for Google Play, I think the Apple review process was only maybe about a day or so. And for the Play Store, it maybe took 4 days to a week or so. So I mean, listen, at the Play Store account is $25 a year. I think the Apple one is $99 a year, but you get what you pay for.
Okay, any other questions? I think we're almost at the limit for our Q&A.
All right.
This
One quick question, and of course, as well, this question is geared towards new developers as well as new Flutter devs. What are some of the recommendations you tend to say to students, especially for learning Flutter or software development, and mapping out how to build a project like this?
But so my number one recommendation is to build a real project that you're interested in. Tutorials are good and you should follow them, but they'll only get you so far. You'll never really get the hang of something until you have an idea that you actually want to build. That is when you're gonna really learn. Yeah, listen, I do the same thing as everyone else. I follow the YouTube tutorials and I type along and I can, but you don't really learn until you have an idea in your head that you actually want to see made tangible. So have an actual project that you can build That's all yours. And then another advantage of that as well is that you then have a portfolio piece that you can show to anybody. You say, hey, you want to bring yourself off as a developer? Okay, what have you built? You'll be able to have that, and you can show it. And if in some interviews, people might want to see what you've built, and then because it's something that is your idea and you will be presumably a bit more passionate about it, you'll be able to explain it well in detail and explain the architectural decisions and trade-offs that you had made and so on. So that's my number one advice: have a real project and build it and see it through. And remember, it's not done when the coding is done. The coding was the easiest part of this. The graphics, creating the logo, creating the videos and all of that, that is what took up the lion's share of the time here.
Okay, thank you. As Latifa, you can continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Shane. Okay, so before we move on to our next speaker, I just want to shout out our sponsor, Vertis Technology Solutions Limited. Vertis Technology Solutions is an IT services provider. They partner with clients to foster technology innovations by simplifying IT complexity and transforming businesses to experience returns on their IT investments. They focus on several areas, including application development, cybersecurity, training, staff augmentation, IT managed services. So you can check out Vertis Technology Services if you know anyone that's interested in digitizing their business or they need IT services. And of course, for developers, just a reminder that Vertis is currently looking for application testers with a working to intermediate knowledge of testing tools. So you can reach out to us if you're interested in that opportunity as well, preferably before May 31st, because their projects are scheduled to start in June. Moving on, so our next presenter is going to be Colin Campbell. And Colin is a student, of course. So Colin is a student at the UE. He is a full stack software developer. He has been actively creating projects within the space. If you go to his LinkedIn page, it's very active, very inspiring for those developers who, for those students who want or think that they can't do anything as a student or they're not competent enough. You should just take a scroll down Colin's LinkedIn feed. However, moving on. So Colin has started his own company called Goble Eazley Technologies, and he is generally driven to help others through software. He's turned this into a passion and career from it just being a hobby. And over the past couple of years, he's worked on several projects, including ArtifactsPro, PharmaReconcile, and Eazley, which he's currently developing. And I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more about ArtifactsPro for this presentation, and he'll also touch on what the plans are for his software Eazley. Colin?
Greetings, everybody, and thank you. Thank you for having me on. So, I'm Colin Campbell. I'll just, walk through what ArtifactsPro is and, talk about stuff that Lativa said that I'll talk about. So just to start off, right, I'm going to share my screen just to show you ArtifactsPro. I'll just walk through ArtifactsPro. So essentially what it is, right,
Colin, not to break you, but could you just share what your inspiration to get into tech was first, right before you get into the presentation?
Oh, okay, my bad. I'm so sorry. So what was my inspiration? So how it all started, I started off in high school, just like Mr. Oswald. But my first phone I had was a Windows phone, and Microsoft had these apps and it allowed people to build apps or build games, right? A bit like Scratch. I don't remember the name for it now, but chances are it doesn't exist anymore. You could drag and drop, instructions into place, and from that, could be animations, can be apps, it can be whatever you want. And, to me, this was amazing. It's like a creating own world. And that was in third form. But as time go along, I started to dive deeper into, coding. And at one point, I was interested in making money online, right? And you could make money online using Google Ads. So I learned HTML and CSS. I built a website, a simple website, right? Some square box on it, and I will put a affiliate ad on it and click on it just to say I can make money, right? So thereafter, I got deeper and deeper now into web development, and I learned PHP. I learned how to do some basic stuff, simple backend and so on. And it's like the whole rabbit hole. PHP, then Java. After Java, you build something amazing now. Then it's Node.js. After Node.js, it's Spring Boot. Then now it's the web frameworks and so on. So my inspiration is mostly based on ability to create stuff and create your own world. Partly money, because it's amazing to earn money from art and so on. But to me it's fun. It's very amazing. It's almost like you're an artist. You're creating your own world, right? And that's not something that you can get to the every day, and that's not something that somebody can take away from you, right? So yeah, that's what inspired me. And as we're here now, right, all these skills added up to this project, ArtifactsPro. So I hope that was enough. So I'll start talking about ArtifactsPro now. So ArtifactsPro essentially is the Git for documents, right? How it started out was that, in high school, when I was in CSEC, I would work on projects, right, SPS with my classmates, and I realized that we'd have different versions of a document, right? Even in CAPE, or even to know when I knew it when I'm working on assignments, all the different versions of the same document because I want to discard the previous version. I have a fear that sometimes I might, mess up the new version, and I might have to revert back to the old version, right? So I send myself emails, I might use Google Drive, and I might use my file system on my computer. So, the idea came to mind for a project, and, I was intrigued by it. And I want it to be something that I can, have some financial interest in. So I, decided to talk to other people. My mother, who works in, who works in office, she works with a documents. I asked her, and she told me, yeah, man, this thing can work out, can work out, because, we're a project management team, and, we get workshop on how to do this stuff. The organization I work in spend money on this stuff. Oh yeah, it would be nice. And I say, yeah, I don't know, I'm gonna build it out. I built it out, and this is the feature started to develop, and everything started to take form and shape. So now here we are now, right? And I'll just walk you through the software. So there are a couple of terminologies in the software that the users must get used to. The ArtifactsPro. There's something called an artifact, right? Artifacts are essentially, a representation of a document that might have enumerated versions. So in this, you can track your versions A's, B's, and C's of a document that you might want to track. So let me just say that I have a report. It's called Report 2020, and I'm working on this report with my team. I might want to, see how the report has progressed, right? So I can collaborate with my team to prevent confusion. That's the important thing right here, is to prevent confusion and the chaos associated with it. I can have a description of what the project is about. Let's say, so some sample report, right? I can save upload a document. All right, so I can then now come here and upload version 1 of my document. So version 1, hello world, start getting initial version. And I can come here to choose a document that I want to upload. Choose a safe document. I don't think I have any. All right, so I can choose this one. All right, this is the first version of my document. And I can click on it, I can see the comment and so on. right? But remember, this is meant for like a team. So, you know, if you own an organization or business, right, they might have multiple teams, and, you know, they can allow multiple team members to collaborate efficiently and have some level of cohesion. So this is where I came up with the idea of creating workspaces. They're essentially groups, right, for your team members. And within these groups, you can, of course, have administrative personnel to manage a team. So you might have like a sales team or an accounting team. You might have teams for certain projects and so on, right, that might use ArtifactsPro to do them stuff. But of course, you want to keep all the teams separate on this single platform. So I'm going to create a, you know, a report team. So hello world. This is the report team, right? Create a workspace. And, you know, in this team, I would have artifacts or documents I want to work on. So I can come here now and choose the artifact I want to. And if I want to, just add a member first. I think I'll have a member of this organization. All right, so yeah, I don't have a member, sadly. I would have to add him. All right, so wrong account. Forgive me, please. All right. So yeah, let me just put in the workspace. So report team. I just want to exist an artifact that I have on this account, right? So I'm gonna say hello world report team. Create workspace, right? I'm add a member. Like this, where I can add who I want to be a part of the team, right? I'm adding the one. These are all my new nodes, right? And I can, of course, add the artifact that I want to be working with, right? And you know, with this, I can choose who I want to, you know, have access to my documents, so I can password protect it. And this is the password retrieve. And I can add people. So I can add in, and I can say you can only view only, right? And add another guy. Anywhere. And you can view and upload, right? Let's finish, and it's added. All right, so there we are. And you know, since they're all here, you know, they can see the workspace, they can access it, and of course they can have a discussion. So if somebody did something important with a document, they can refer it here, right? And they can enter a message that they want to enter, right? To, you know, shout out to the whole team. So can enter, you know, document here. In the world, right? You can post this here. And you know, once I post this here, other team members can reply to it and I can follow up with them. Right? So I can log into another browser and show you this action, right? But let me just remember, please take a while. All right. Somebody can see my screen? Or is it still on Firefox?
We're still on Firefox.
Okay. I have to anytime share again. All right, so we share my entire screen. Okay, so here I am. I am from, this is account now. All right, so yeah, I'm no go zone bro, right? And that means that I should be able to see, you know, the workspace recently created. I report team, right? And since I'm here now, I can, you know, I have the restrictions here, so I can view and upload, and I can see the different versions here. I use this to track my electronics lab, right? Because I'm afraid of screwing up on my report, so I keep the different versions here, and I can see all of this stuff. All right, so I can upload a version, right? Let's say that I have made my changes to a document, and I want to make my contributions to be known to the team. I upload my versions here, so version what 5. This is the demo purposes. And I say, to fix the graphs. I fix the graphs. And, add a better type of graphic. Right? I can choose a document. And choose the same exact document as the last time. Or I can just choose this. Right? The document here. That's that. And it can be seen that I've made this change. Right? So when I come here now, click on this, I can see that logos on bro had made a change, and I can see the comment also, right? If I don't like this change, I can say, what happened here? I don't like this. Right? Post a comment there, right? And of course, I will be able to see this comment there, and I can reply to it and follow up and so on. So yeah, that's the whole point. So you can enable collaboration around managing different documents of different versions, right? And this can be done in a way that providing a platform like this, right? By making this a platform, sorry. Right, and we can, sorry, I don't have any process. They can create admins, they can create people who have different privileges in the account. Like you realize that, on my other account, I couldn't really, click this button to get the invite link because the person doesn't have the privilege to do so, right? The same goes with creating workspaces and also creating accounts in which the admin can have access to. So yeah, that is it for Artifacts Pro. I'm not sure what else is there, but yeah. So are there any questions about that you might have about this app?
All right. Thank you, Colin. I was actually trying to figure out which language you built it in. I actually didn't test what, like, couple of stuff. Which language? How did you really start to think about how you would build a project like this? And then the follow-up question is, what's your future going with a project like this? Of course, you know about Google Drive, Google Docs, and so forth. And I'm assuming you want to take it to a place where it can be used on a production business in a production business environment. So, like, what's the chain of thought, timeline that you took to build this language and direction? Those are the 3 questions that I have.
Okay, so as for the language, I use JavaScript and TypeScript, right? TypeScript, is the default language, sorry, for Angular, right? And I use for the backend JavaScript Node.js, right? Vanilla JavaScript for Node.js.
Okay, interesting. So, all right. Before you go to the other question, so should I assume that you're a full stack Node.js and not necessarily PHP and so forth?
Well, I don't like to tie myself down with a particular language or a particular technology, right?
Yeah.
Or a set of tools. I call myself a full stack developer because, I can build a full stack app in any given tool, right? Okay. I don't stick to Node.js because, it's Node.js. Even though Node.js is awesome, right? I choose the right tools to do a perfect job, sorry. Like I intentionally learn multiple tools, right? So I can, be versatile and flexible. For instance, I choose to learn Spring Boot, Laravel, Node.js, and I choose to learn, Flutter, React, and Angular. And I choose those specific tools, and I choose to dive down deeper into those specific tools, right? Because I want to be a full stack developer. And if a problem arises, I can, cherry pick which tools to use to solve a specific problem.
Okay. All right. Do you remember the other two questions, or should
Yeah,
I remind you?
Infrastructure.
or infrastructure. Okay. So the infrastructure used as in, what this platform runs on.
Yeah, well, I think you addressed that one. So the other two would be what your approach to building a software like this is,
Okay.
how you plan to navigate the business environment.
Okay, so the thought process for this app. Well, before all of this, I read on, the lean startup method, right, which is interesting, and I tried my best to apply it, right? So when I first started out, what I did was I built like, a, a rough app, right? Even though it took a while, it took over a year. And during that process, what I did was, I made sure I talked to people, right? I asked them, how you look, what you think about this, right? And more often than not, they give me the thumbs up. It says, okay. So sometimes, sometime along the path, they would suggest me changes, right? Which I do really consider. And these changes are important because you're building it for the people, you're not building it for yourself. So it's very important to make sure that you talk to people, right? And so you can see where your app is at. Because remember that you're a bias towards this product, and you're building it from a shelf. Like, you're basically isolating yourself, you're building from what you think you're solving. But more often than not, you might not be solving problem at all. So you need to talk to people, right? And make sure, you can understand, what problems you can solve from this. So yeah, well, I started off with building like a rough idea of what I want to be, and show to people, and from there I can make improvements. So as for like the business environment, um, what the target, as I mentioned earlier, the target audience I consider building this for, it's I'm reconsidering, because you have a lot of competitors out there. You have SharePoint, Google Drive, and Dropbox, right? Even though I've tried to position this product not as as document storage platform, but rather a platform to track different versions of a document, right? It can be quite difficult. People might come with the excuse and say, well, I don't need to spend money on that. I can just use Google Drive or even file system, right? And that can be the most difficult part. So, I can remember one time I got a call from somebody saying that, they have a client who works in this particular, industry, and said that, they find your products. Well, I think your products will be quite useful because they're having this problem, I just want to solve it. But at the time, I wasn't really ready, to get the app out. Because another thing I want to talk about, is the cost, right? Like, as much as exciting as a software as a service application might sound, right? Things are actually quite, difficult once you get into it. There's a hedonic phase where, you're so excited about it, right? You just want to get into it. Oh, reality hits, things are not that simple. So, the cost, it's amazing, I tell you. For a lot of money, 30 odd US per month for like hosting. Right now, I'm not ready to release it as a full production app yet, because, that's one thing I'm considering, and I'm still getting the funds to, put stuff there. Right now, I'm using a free tier system, especially the database and hosting, because, the cost is one thing I have to consider, and I can't run it on no money. Right. So, yeah. But another challenge is, is when it comes to payments. So again, it's a software as a service app, and the most important thing, is to have a way for customers to pay you. In Jamaica, PayPal is not supported, Stripe is not supported. So one thing I've considered is using manual invoices, but it's hard to really think about continuing that way, because thinking about the future, that is very tedious.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask, that. So there are payment processors in Jamaica that you probably could use Sagicor, for example, also set up payment. The company that I co-found, we have a payment gateway with Sagicor, so that's something that can easily be set up, and you get payment directly from online your website directly into your bank account. There's also WePay, there's NCB and so forth, but of course with these local or Caribbean gateways, there's a lot of cost that incur comparing to using
Yeah.
PayPal. So it's possible, just whether the trade-off makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know about WePay. I've heard of Sagicor, and I looked into First Atlantic Caribbean, right? I'm just taking my time to ensure that I have all the stuff ready so I can dive into all of them. But I'm most looking to Sagicor,
Okay.
right? Because WePay, I created an account at WePay till this day I can verified.
Okay.
So I'm questioning the seriousness of it.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the stuff.
So I'm going to share a video in the chat. We actually did a session on Sagicor payment gateway and other payment gateways that Jamaicans can use to accept money through their website and make it go direct to their bank account. So I'll share that video in the chat. But again, one of the benefit of this space, get to demo and people can give feedback, highlight, and help out where they can with suggestion and so forth. So are there any questions?
Yes, so one question from the chat, how long did it take? That's from Kadim. And also my follow-up question, since Goble and Eazley Tech is a company, are you open to bringing other developers from the space onto the team?
Okay, so for the first question, it took about a year for me to develop, right? It could have been shorter because I have been a student pretty much all my life, and I'm afraid of, being about students. So I do pay attention. So I do try to make time for school and also this. I don't code all the while, but when I do code, I try to make it try to make it be the best, right? And of course, that takes time if you don't code every day on this project. All right, so as for the next question, yeah, sure. I would love to involve, people from this community, as I grow and, and as this project start to earn a lot of money or earn some money, right? And, I have a lot of responsibilities. I would love to bring on, people who can help contribute, right, to the business by, contributing to the product. And also I have other project ideas I like to work on, but since I am only a person, I don't really, have two people's ability. Right? So, yeah.
Question from Tev, when do you plan to do the official launch? And then after that, we'll just take any other questions from audience.
All right, so official launch, probably after this summer, right? Because, even though I'm a business to earn money, right, I want to make sure I have a lot of money, right? Because I'm prepared to fail. Right? And I'm prepared to fail, but I want to make sure that I fail comfortably, right? Because I could get a credit card, right? Go on, AWS, punch in the numbers, right? Set up the instances, set up the database, right? But that incur debt. And I'm not sure, how many people I will get in time to register on the product, right? That's one thing I'm considering. Sorry, I'm worried about the time it takes to get people to start paying, right? So I want to make sure, I have enough money after the summer so I can invest into the product, right? Invest into the infrastructure, and, I can, see the money goes down or the money goes up, depends on how much customers are going. So even though, after 12 months in, right, I might have like $5 left, right? But by the 13th month, right, I get a customer or I get, the amount of customers to break even, right? So that's what I'm really prepared for, and I'm waiting until I have enough funds, right, to be able to launch products without being worried about going into it.
Okay, so we also, I think there's also a group created by David Bain for persons starting new businesses. So we also need to link you to that as well. But just as a reminder to everyone that as the event gains momentum, we do hope to onboard investors as well. So that is supposed to be one of the values that's added to this event series. Do we have any more questions from anyone? No, okay, no questions. Okay, so just a reminder, I think Oshane just posted the payment gateway link in the chat. We also post all our event recordings on the community forum until they're published on our YouTube page. So you can definitely find us on the JAD community forum link in the chat, as well as on the on YouTube as Jamaican Developers Community. And lastly, before we end, since it's 8:04 now, we just want to do another shout out to our sponsor, Particular Presence Technologies. Particular Presence Technologies is another small startup IT service provider in Jamaica. They offer pragmatic approaches to problem solving and using technology. They're primarily focused on finance and insurance industries, and they also focus on building systems, strong developer systems. They do a lot of focus on, they put a lot of focus on developers, their developers, their staff, and your personal development within the company, as well as building strong systems for companies. So we, of course, the links for both our sponsors were posted in the chat and posted again. And with that, if we have no more questions, we can wrap up. Oswald and Colin, if you guys want to share where persons can reach you on social media, that would be a great time.
I'm at Oswald A. Smith, OSWALDASMITH on Twitter, Instagram, pretty much everything, at Oswald A. Smith.
Thanks, Oswald. Colin?
Sorry about that. Dev.Colin on Instagram. You mainly use Instagram. I don't really like Twitter.
Okay.
So we're gonna share these links in the Telegram chat again afterwards, as well as on the community forum for the event recording, community forum post for the event recording. So just last call for questions before we wrap up.
I should also point out, sorry, if you have like a project that you want to, show and tell or demo, you can reach out to us on the community forum or the chat, or basically email Latif or I. And because this is going to be a recurring event every month, we keep a demo day. So if you want to do a show and tell at one of our demo day, just let us know. The person that was going to make a comment or a question, you can go ahead. Sorry about that. Oh,
one last thing.
Yes.
I made a demo video for ArtifactsPro, a comprehensive video. So if anybody wants to know more, you can always visit this link. In the chat.
Okay, great. And final reminder, so all the links that were posted in the chat today, those are also going to be on the community forum. Those are also going to be on the community forum posts. So keep up with us in the Telegram group. I'm also going to push the resources to WhatsApp as well for this event. That's not going to be a common practice. So do sign up on the community forum and join the JAD Telegram group so that you can stay tuned. And that's a wrap. Our meeting or demo day for May is adjourned.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and take care. See you at the next event or see you around.